Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast, brought to you by Prize Picks. I am James Ham, your Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Fox 40, Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. Quite well indeed, James. Although I'm a little lonely. We should be lonely. Where's our friend Brendan? Where's our pal Brendan?
Yeah, there's only two of us today. Brendan is moving. Um,
What?
I,
Where's he
I,
going?
I think the joy of being my age or Sean's age is that you don't pick up and move every 6 months or 12 months anymore. And that's just not the case for someone like Brendan, who's a young man who tends to move quite often.
Rather
Uh,
nomadic.
I don't miss those days, man. You remember those days, like where you like moving from one spot to the next, or did you never have that time?
No, I didn't really get that. I picked a place, a plot, and I stayed there, grew roots. I didn't bounce around a lot. I was fortunate that way. So yeah. Hopefully he's not going too far because did the Kings finally do it to him? Did they just make he's like I'm out. I'm out. This is too tough. I'm leaving town.
No, I think he moved from like Natomas to Roseville. Like
Oh, he's one of
he,
those.
he's joining the suburbanites in Roseville. Yeah, like when I was young, I might have moved like 7 or 8 times. Like that's kind of what you do when you're young and you have an apartment or you're renting a house and someone wants to sell the house. Whatever, all kinds of things happen. I certainly I've been here. We were talking about this before. I think I've been here 8.5 years at my current house, and before that, like 4 years at a rental house here in the lake.
Hmm.
But I don't miss moving, and I don't think I ever want to move again, Sean. Like
I get
if
it.
I like come out of this house in like in a body bag, that would be okay with me. Like at some
That
point, like in the very distant future, I think I got 40 years in me. I think I could string this out to 40.
it's a good
So
number.
yeah.
Some people don't want to go. You don't need to go past that, right? Like that's a sometimes you get into the really old age, and that's the decrepit age. And well, that's being pretty dark to start this Kings Beat podcast, but just these morbid thoughts about
I don't know
one's.
how we got here, Sean. How did
I
we
don't
get
either.
here? Brennan
Yeah,
moved. So
he
Brennan's not here
moved.
today. His internet isn't set up yet. He's working on it. But today was bad. You know who else had a bad day, Sean? The Sacramento
Um,
Kings.
well, today was probably a pretty good day.
Do you
They
think
woke up in their
so?
own bed. They woke up in their own beds, saw their families. Yeah, maybe got
Uh,
some rest and relaxation and some rehab in and some cardio perhaps, and then looked at last night's game film, and that certainly brought you down. But
I could just
onward.
see like again, like Harrison Barnes getting up. You got the little one there, you got the wife there, and getting up. And I don't think Harrison is someone who strikes me that drinks coffee. I'm thinking he probably like brewed himself a yerba mate and was
What's
like,
that?
that's like a green leaf tea that's
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, I like that.
yeah, right. So, but it's the bitter one that you mix with
Yeah,
honey, and
that's
then
good.
was like sitting there ready to like relax. And his wife came in, Brittany, and said, "What the hell happened last night?"
Who do you think was most likely to like wake up, wipe the sleep out of their eyes, and on their way to the restroom slammed their little toe into the wall as if things are going that bad? You know what I mean? Like, and here it is going bad again at home.
I think like 28 people collectively, like everyone that traveled
Wow,
to Houston, like all of them like somehow stubbed a toe.
that's
I don't know.
tough.
It just felt like that kind of day, right? So that's what we're here to talk about today. The Sacramento Kings just laid an egg over the weekend, and then again on Monday, losing two straight to the Houston Rockets in really, really poor fashion. And there's going to be like we got a lot to like dig into here, Sean,
Do
but
we?
it was pretty ugly. So let's start with this. If you're watching on YouTube and you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a rating and review if you're listening somewhere on a podcast. Jump on board with the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com and become a premium subscriber so you get invited to things like the Off the Record with the Kings Beat virtual happy hours or the Off the Record with the Kings Beat in person happy hour, which is being formulated still, but is still on the horizon.
I don't believe you.
You don't. Well, we just discussed this before we got on here, Sean. I'm working on it. You know, I'm working on it. I'm
Yeah.
working on it. I'm a busy man. I'm,
Yeah.
between like 3 jobs and having a wife and 2 children. Well, one
Boats.
of them is a college student, so I don't think I can call him a child anymore. But like, I got a lot going on, man.
I get it.
Um, you
I
get
get
it. You
it.
get it. So again, if you're a restaurateur out there or someone who owns a business or has a friend who owns a restaurant or a brewery or something and would like to house off the record with the Kings Beat virtual happy hour, reach out to me. You can find contact information in the description below or go to jameshamnba@gmail.com and send me an email and we can have a discussion. Let's get to the business at hand though. Sean, I think watching the game on Saturday, uh, it just looked lackluster. It looked like a team that was missing their best player. It looked like a team that was missing their leader, and they fell flat. And you kind of had like a little bit of a built-in excuse that you're playing a team that you probably should beat, and you just didn't look right. And part of that was because you had these issues that like De'Aaron Fox is out and we still don't know if he'll be available to play on Wednesday. Sean and I were checking the injury report, but that first game, it felt like okay, this doesn't feel good. Something's wrong. Something's off. But you know, Fox isn't there, and then we get to Monday, and
Well, hold on before yeah, after
yeah,
Saturday, you're going, "Oh, that's just one of 82," right? Like, you have these
exactly.
built-in schedule games where, things just don't go your way. And I'm curious before we really dive into this, like, at the end of this podcast, well, and I I think I wonder how people think a lot of times how I am, of whether I'm pessimistic or optimistic. I feel like I'm a pretty optimistic person, but more of a realist. But I do wonder if this podcast will be therapeutic or not. So that's what we have to examine in final thoughts at the end of our podcast today. Um,
Okay,
but yeah, I
I'd
mean, you're
like to counter that. I would say that I'm a realist, but I'm on the positive side of things where I think you're more on like I think we both have a realistic point of view,
right.
but we're on different spectrums. I think you are more of a half empty and I'm more of a half full
Oh,
person.
see, that hurts my soul. I don't
No,
think
that's
that's
okay.
right.
That
It's all right.
doesn't hurt your
No, it's
soul.
okay. No, but it's funny because I would think a lot. I think there's probably a lot of people that would agree with that. That it just hurts to hear. Anyway, no, no, I'm kidding.
I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
You did. I'm gonna take a moment. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, and yeah. So like, you have that Saturday moment, and it would have been a season low a year before, 89 points. The
Mm.
lowest that they had last year was 95. They did it twice. They only had 4 games that they never reached 100 points. So you're talking about looking like a team that had this, had that. Never once really thought, okay, well, looking at the pace, sure, like that's certainly a factor. There's some things that are a little concerning, but to me, I'm thinking it's the one of 82. You're going to have a long film session. Typically, especially with good teams, they go in and they recalibrate. And let's not forget, they were coming off a game where they gave a hell of an effort against the Warriors, right?
They did, but
Uh,
they had 3 days to think about it.
for
That
sure,
game was
for
on
sure.
Wednesday, so you had Thursday, you had Friday, and then the game's on Saturday.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
and traveling to Houston, and it's first of 2 straight in Houston, and I fully expected, and I think Mike Brown did too, that team was gonna come out vastly different, on Monday. Recalibrated, more inspired play, and they went the other way, man. Like, it was they scored more points than they did on Saturday, but managed to fall behind 40 points and look absolutely dreadful at times.
I'm
So
gonna stop
yeah,
you. I gotta ask this question. Do you think that because we've been so preconditioned to losing and dysfunction and 16 years of just malpractice on an NBA court by so many different people
yeah.
that we feel these games a little bit more, even as people who cover the team, you're like, oh, I've seen that game. That's the game before Luke Walton gets fired. Or, oh, that's the game before they replace Ty Corbin. Or that's the game before, that's the game that Dave Yeager has at the end of that one season where he didn't come back to next year, because that's I kind of feel like sometimes we get caught up in it, and it's an emotional roller coaster to watch a team go through these things, but we're so preconditioned to, oh great, here we go again, that kind of felt like one of those games where, man, I went on the radio today and I was harsh. I was my quick 6 quick thoughts. My first line was, "Where's the pride?" Like,
Well,
because that's what I felt like coming out of that game on Monday. Like, that was a prideless performance. Like, where are
so
you? Stand up. Go ahead.
so unpacking that just a bit, like, no, I don't think, like, certainly those instances, the Ty Corbin, the Dave Yeager, the Luke Walton, those games you can certainly identify when they happened. I don't think
Mhm.
we've seen anything like that yet. So I think that's, it's just you have to be negative. You have to call it out, because if you're not calling it out, you're not doing your job.
I agree.
I mean, look, I don't think, you know, like, with respect to the team that you cover, if not then when? You can't just bottle it up. I mean, look, Mike Brown's not going in there, going to his team and patting them on the ass and saying, "I'll get him next time." Like, no, there's some legit concern there, and
Mhm.
they didn't practice today, so well, they'll play against when on Wednesday. We'll see what that looks like. But I'm sure they got together as a team. Sometimes, maybe getting away from each other is probably the best thing. But yeah, they're going to be honest with each other and hold people accountable. So that, I mean, you have to do the same. I will say though, like, there are things that you're seeing that are factoring in. But before we really deep dive into all the gruesome, violence of this team right now, you can look at a 2-4 record, and through 6 games, that's exactly what they started off last year with. And to kind of give it the rose colored glasses, they finished third in the West, right? So they're now in the position that they didn't want to be, which is having to dig themselves out of a hole. They wanted to start off a lot better, obviously, and they just haven't. So, yeah, I would hope, and I'll just hand it back to you here. I would hope that there's some serious soul searching after 2 games. It's not quite an overreaction, but there's behaviors that have been illustrated in the past 3 games for a team that has a lot of talent on their team and another all-star that's playing, to where you should be able to stomach. And this was the big question we had: how are they going to how will they endure a loss of De'Aaron Fox, who has really become quite valuable? How will they endure this loss of Fox, no matter how long it is? And I think there was curiosity as to how they would do that. The one thing I didn't think we would see is a team absolutely running in mud, a team that absolutely changes their identity, from, again, like, I don't Mike Brown talked about it last night. I agree. I don't think they've lost their identity. I think there is some soul searching that needs to go on, and I think there is a recalibration. But no matter how much they have to work on defense and physicality and all that, and he's talked about how you had a record setting pace and a record setting points per, all
Offensive
this
rating.
stuff.
Yeah.
To go from that and carry that into an exit, there will be a little bit of slippage, likely. Replicating that could be very difficult. But, like it or not, and I've said it a million times, your identity and where your bread is buttered is being a high paced, efficient offensive team. And they have not looked like that once in the 3 games that they've played without De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the identity thing is the biggest issue, right? Like, you can't take one player off a team and lose your identity. Especially, I guess, like, if you take Michael Jordan off the mid 90s Bulls, which is what happened, sure, you lose your identity. But this team isn't built around one superstar. It's not built around two superstars. It's built around two all-star, two all NBA players. It's not built around just one player that is going to carry all of the weight of everything all season long. So to watch a team so quickly lose what has become, like, clearly their identity is the offensive pace, the offensive movement, the shooting, the just what we've seen from them, the fluidity that we've seen from them. To lose that because one player is gone, and like Sean, here's the crazy, like the stats behind this collapse are like startling. They're startling. Like the Kings they were fourth in the league in pace through the first 3 games. Again, small sample size, but 104 points, 104 possessions per 100 possession, right? Whatever the pace is. They're at 104, right? In pace. To lose that and drop in the next 3 games, they're averaging a 95 pace to go from number 4 in the league to dead last in their last 3 games in pace to 95. Their pace on Monday was 89. Like that is like mid 90s New York Knicks. Like, right? Like Charlie Ward running sideways up and down the court. That's what that, like, feeding Patrick Ewing and watching him dribble the ball 8 times as he's backing someone down. That's what that pace is. To see them go from like this high-powered offense to nothing. And, I think when we're watching, I don't know what that was, but um, when we're watching something happen like this so quickly, it's really alarming to see because I don't blame Davion Mitchell. Like, he's the guy who's going to shoulder the blame because he's the guy who stepped into De'Aaron Fox's spot, right? But who do you blame? And how do you, like, place blame? Because, like, there's an accountability issue that comes with not pushing the tempo at all. And it's an accountability with all 5 guys on the court, but it's also an accountability with the coaching staff. Because if this is what's happening, if you're watching your team literally look like they're playing in mud, like, I got to see something different, right? And that means, like, Mike Brown is so quick to call a timeout because of a defensive error. Like, where's your timeout because your team stopped moving? Your team on the offensive side of the ball stopped doing a basic tenet of who you are as a franchise. And to me, that was like, it was startling to watch and like really jarring to just watch a team that can't perform. That's what I mean,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, and I think you're on. I mean, look, in terms of who you blame, I think that's what's the concerning part is that there is no one person to blame because you're terrible in basically all aspects of the game. Jason Anderson of the B is on this trip, and after it was kind of similar into the question I asked when we were in San Francisco because we talked about it in the last podcast. Mike took a long time to come out and address the media, and you could tell that that loss to the Warriors bothered them. Um,
Hmm.
there's certainly things to pick apart there, but there were things that they did well. And my question, mainly because of the time that it took for him to get there, and he didn't open with he didn't have an opening statement as he normally does, was curious. We hadn't really seen that before from him. We've seen it from other coaches for sure, but you
Hmm.
could tell he was pissed, and that's why I said, "What bothered you most?" The next day, what bothered you most after reviewing film about that game, and cooler heads prevailed, and he basically went through a laundry list of things that they did well, um, which was fine. That's how he, kind of processed things to the point of where they are now. I mean, you're talking about his post game conference last night where he says that the team's spirit got deflated and there was nobody to bring it back up.
That's not
That
okay.
that that points to your coach saying, "Hey, there's a lack of leadership here." And there was an image that struck me because I don't want to say that this is a person to blame. It's certainly one person to blame. You know, the last podcast I'm saying, Domantas Sabonis, where are you? Like, score the ball. I think this team relies on a lot of threes. That's obvious. So there is a huge finger to be pointed at the coaching staff for having to figure it out. And I think Mike is up for that challenge. I think he talked about facing adversity and how to claw your way out, especially when your one of your all stars isn't there. But Domantas Sabonis was a huge cog in the success of this team last year by virtue of him being an all star and not being an injury replacement all star, and being in an all NBA world. Him and Fox were clearly above and beyond, and we just haven't really seen that from him, especially with the absence of Fox. And that to me is very concerning. But there was an image that struck me last night before he went knee to knee, which, you know, I'm curious to see what the injury report looks like for Wednesday's game because that could be an issue. Um, but him standing there at near midcourt with Mike Brown, and they had a long, long conversation. And he went back into the game, and he had some conversations, Domas that is, with other members of his team. And that's, to me, not knowing what the conversation was like. I'm pretty sure you could guess, and that's healthy. That's a lasting image to me where you've got some figuring out to do. I'm not saying that it's a, hey, have a players only meeting and all that kind of stuff, but there is no one person to blame. There's a lot to go around, and to me that demonstrated leadership. That was your all-star getting up there and going, all right, we got to, this isn't working, right? And it's tough to hear from Keon Ellis after the game, who certainly gets credit. Him, Kessler Edwards, a lot of those guys that came off the bench. Mike pointed out that they played quote unquote Kings basketball, more looking like, he's like, this is a team, this is a squad that has no minutes of playing together, and they went out there and played the right way. Certainly. And you get it. But they also went out there and played a bit against a bunch of nothings on the Houston Rockets bench as well. So not taking away what they did, but I didn't want to hear from Keon Ellis last night. As nice as he was and he played, you know, if I had been in Houston, I would have been talking to other people, because this
Yeah,
loss is not on
he
Keon
scored
Ellis.
15 points. I mean, that's why
Exactly.
you put Keon Ellis out there because he had a nice moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
You needed Domantas Sabonis. You needed guys like Kevin Herter, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray to a degree, just because of how big of a role he plays on this team. These guys are missing shots. These guys are running in mud. These guys, and a big part of it, I know we've talked so much about the offensive side of things, but Mike's big takeaway from that last game, Mike Brown, that is the reaching. And clearly, teams that are working on defense and working on physicality tend to reach. They're fouling. He's not concerned so much about the fouling, but I think it's becoming a problem. Like, these teams are getting a lot of points at the free throw line, and it's taking them out of rhythm. And then when your pace is what it is, you're letting, teams kind of keep up with you, and they're playing into the way that they'd like to play as opposed to the way you want to play. So, yeah, the fouling is definitely an issue. And when you're poor shooting, and the one thing I think that they haven't really done, James, if you want to call this a little victory, is they haven't really turned the ball over a ton, which is
No,
kind of speaks to maybe the lack of ball movement. I mean, Mike kind of called it out a little bit, saying he wanted to see some more ball movement and the ball zip around a little bit more. I think that's been, you know, okay. It could be certainly better, but especially when things are starting to go on, the other team starts to go on one of those runs. So
Sean, one of the things that stuck out to me when I looked at Mike Brown and he starts talking and of course he's frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. He starts talking about like his team being deflated and like I thought it was an honest moment. He said he had to be better. He got his butt kicked. His team got his butt kicked, but it starts with him. He got his butt kicked. I don't disagree. Like your team wasn't ready to step on the court. Whatever the problem was, they weren't ready on Saturday. We saw that. They weren't ready. They got kicked in the teeth right away. You get to Monday, same exact thing. Same group of players just got kicked in the teeth. And you're sitting there like, what is happening? But my problem that he walks out and the first thing he starts talking about is he knew that, they were in trouble when like there are 5 or 6 of these very specific defensive plays where their players like ran into a certain area and got the ball and it was over, right? Like they're going to score right there. Like he's like, I've never been part of a team where like we give up 5 or 6 of those in a game. That just doesn't happen. His focus was so much on the defensive end and it wasn't anything on the offensive end. And to be honest with you, their problems on the offensive end. Their defense isn't great. Like, sure. But before last night's game, it was 14th. Okay, you'll take that. 14th, like the offense, a defensive rating was number 14. Like, but to watch them not be able to play offense anymore, That has to be super concerning because we know they made a fundamental change. Whatever that structural change that they made, you can see it. You can see that something's wrong that was there last year that is not there this year. There's no spacing. The ball movement is way different. The screens that are being set are way different. Teams are pushing the Kings out past the 3-point line. And then, poor Kevin Herter is getting a DHO 28 feet away from the rim and having to turn and fire because they're out of the time on the shot clock. And that's because you got a point guard who's taken 17 seconds to clear the midcourt line and doesn't even pass the ball to his big man until 13 seconds are on the clock. And by that point, he's waiting for the ball and pushed all the way out to the top of the key. And then next thing you know, Kevin Herter or Malik Monk are turning around like, hey, I've got no time to work with. What is going on? And then they're firing away from 27 feet. So you might be getting an open 3-point look, but it's from 4 feet behind the line. And so there are all of these things that are happening. And like to me, whatever you did on the offensive end, whatever the tinkering you did, it's not working. It's not. And you can try to stay the course if you want, but like fundamentally, something's off. And I remember last year at the beginning of the season, I kept telling you guys and I kept telling D'Lo and Casey when I would go on, like, look, this offense is going to be incredible because right now they're just missing open shots. Like you could see the open shots that they were missing. Once they stop hitting, once they start hitting the open shots, they're going to go from number 10 to like to a top 5 offense without any question because it was just about shot making. This isn't about shot making. This is about fundamentally there's something flawed with what you're doing. And in every team in the league, like the idea of playing defense without fouling, of being physical, that whole physicality thing, I just watched a team do it. It was the Houston Rockets. That's what Mike Brown wants. I get what he wants. Like, do they have some pieces that might be a little bit better defensively than the Kings? Sure. But Alperen Şengün is not a defensive stalwart at all. So that's my biggest concern right now. It's that like the focus just keeps being like, we got to fix this defense. Well, you got to fix the best offense in the league is broken, and I don't know how you fix it, but you can't lose your offensive identity because De'Aaron Fox isn't there. The game should still look the same. You just don't have a guy who can go get you 30. Now everybody else has to step up and do something different.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Look, you can have focus on both, and like Mike said, like you can have, you can tumble down from being the top rated offensive team, but you don't go to the dead last. When you're
No,
missing Fox, you should be able. If you fall out of the top 10, maybe. I still don't see that, but to me, that's where this team is at their best. You hope that you can bring your defense up for certain, but that's not going to come at the expense of your offense, which is, running teams out of the gym. And for whatever reason, they're just not doing it. Now, granted, you look at the quality of shots. I don't know how many times you go back and watch games, but I agree with you that you have the moments where you look up and it's an oh shit moment where you just got to hoist something and get something up. But I think the quality of shot is actually had been pretty fine for the most part. They're not hitting, and I think that's part of the problem is the sense that, oh, it's going to come around. And I know, the old adage, shooters shoot, but to me when you look at the coaching staff and you start to get a lot of analyzing into what you do, recognize that you've got Domantas Sabonis down there that he can get you a bucket. Recognize that, you have 2-point field goals that are available to you, and you can be able to get to the free throw line, and you can play a sloppy game if necessary. Like, you have that personnel, but run the ball. Your fast break points are just awful. They're
awful.
like non-existent. I think, as Mike said, like 11 from 4. Yeah, certainly that's progress, but that's not good enough. And to me, I don't see how this team sustains success playing this way. Um,
Oh no,
Maybe I'm
no,
wrong there, but I mean, again, don't want to overreact. It's a small sample size here, but I think you've seen enough in these 3 games without De'Aaron Fox to know that this can't be the way you play, and it
no.
shouldn't be the way you play. And as Mike alluded to last night, like, short of Fox and Sabonis, who have the longer leashes, and obviously you're not bringing them off the floor, changes can be made. To me, I go back and forth with this because I don't think, while I do think that there's depth, I don't think that there's much you can do to mess with someone's confidence and make wholesale changes because frankly, you've got more talented players in front of some of these other guys. And you can see them working. I mean, you had Jordan Ford in there in the first quarter. We're not talking about, a last possession, uh, you know,
Scrub
30
time.
seconds on the clock. You're talking about like with 3 minutes on the clock, or over 2 minutes at least, to bring him in to close out that quarter. So you can see him tinker in there. But how do you sustain success playing this way? I just don't think you can.
No, I don't think you can either. And the thing is too, like coming into the game on Monday, the Kings were 14th in offensive rating, they're 14th in defensive rating, they're 15th in net rating of point 0.9 difference, right? So I was actually I'm okay with that because you understand that there's a lot of room for growth on the offensive end. But I also was concerned because if you're 14th in defensive rating and you're really good at defensive rebounding, which they are. They're in the top, well, coming into yesterday, they were like a top 6 or 7 team in defensive rebounding. Where's the transition buckets? You're getting the stops. But if you're not pushing the pace, you're getting a stop, and for some reason you're allowing the defense to set up almost every single possession. Like, you're slowing the game down so much, and first of all, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, like, slowing the game down, and again, I'd point out, like, if Davion Mitchell is one, if you wanna single him out and say, "It's Davion Mitchell," like, Davion Mitchell is not slow. He's just not De'Aaron Fox. Like, he knows how to run. He can get
Well,
up
and
and
you've
down the
seen it.
court.
He looked brilliant in the preseason. He was pushing the pace in a great way. It looked like it was top priority for him to move. But
But
that's to
where is
me
it now?
where
Like,
well, and it's not just him.
no.
Like that's the part where we and again we haven't really had the opportunity to speak to the team since they've been in Houston, but
Yes, that's true.
I can't imagine that anyone has been told, "Hey, we're going to slow this down with Fox off the floor." Like that's not something that they want to do.
It's almost like someone pulled the e-brake and no one was paying attention. And
Well,
like, hey, somebody pulled the e-brake and we've been driving for the last 40 miles with the e-brake on, burning through our gas and our brakes. Like, what's happening here? So I want to point out a couple other things too.
by the way, okay,
Just
before you do,
yeah,
the Rockets, they're also the Rockets aren't the Rockets from last year. Like I don't want people to look at like, oh, you've lost it. Like I have no problem with them losing the Rockets. It's the way those two games looked. I mean, being down 40 after a clunker of a game on Saturday, running in mud as you've shown. I mean, we've
yeah.
kind of illustrated the shot selection, the shot. Obviously, they're not making shots. These are things that we're talking about with respect to what the Rockets did because the Rockets came in and beat you, and that's not the Rockets from last year. Like this is they've added obviously Dylan Brooks, who's had a nice start to the season, and they've got Fred Van Vliet, and they have some talent there. And we talked about in the last podcast, their starters play really well. They don't really have much of a bench, so respect to them because. I think a lot of people will look at what we're saying and say, "Oh, you should never lose to the Rockets if you aspire to be an upper echelon team." Like that happens. It happens. It's the
It
way
does, but
you've lost.
losing him the
Yeah.
way you lost and losing to him twice in a 72-hour window, and one looking bad and the other looking just absolutely filthy horrible.
But a more
Like, that's the
competitive
problem.
if you had a more competitive game looking more like you're supposed to look, sure, you can stomach that.
Yeah, if you got beat on a buzzer beater or you lost by 3 and you had a couple of turnovers and it was like you could say, "Okay, that's where they could have really used De'Aaron Fox." Like, there's there's no way for 4th quarter Fox to make up 30 points. You go into the 4th down 30 or 35, whatever it was. A couple of things I wanna point out, Sean. First of all, Domantas Sabonis got absolutely destroyed by Alperen Şengün, which that doesn't make any sense to me. You've been asking for him to shoot the ball more. He finished with 8 points. He finished with 8 rebounds. He finished with 5 assists. He took 4
You
shots
took
on the
4
night.
shots. 3 of 4. What are you doing?
But I don't understand what happened there. And, again, we could talk about other things like the free throw shooting battle. Like, it looks, it's 21 of 27 for the Rockets. and 11 of 20 for the Kings. Um, yeah, that's really it doesn't tell the story because Sabonis went to the line 3 times. You got Herter and Harrison Barnes a total of 3. You got Chris Duarte at 4. And then none of your that's it. Your rotational players went to the line 10 times. So it's not like it would have been different. There was an equaling of the free throw shooting a little bit with guys like JaVale or guys like Kessler Edwards or Colby Jones getting Keon Ellis getting free throws late. So there's no aggressiveness going to the basket. We talk about Harrison Barnes all the time. How some nights he's great, and other nights you're like, where did Harrison Barnes go? In a game where you needed your two leaders to step up, Domantas Sabonis and Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes in 22 minutes goes 1 of 6 from the field. He scores 3 points. He has 1 assist and 0 rebounds. Like Sean, like that's a problem. It's a problem
Yep.
where like the accountability has to start somewhere, and it should start with those two being the ones that are saying, "Hey, this is not what's going to happen." And they're on the court and combined for 10 shots. Like what in the world? How does it happen that you lose 23 and a half shots per game from De'Aaron Fox and we see Harrison Barnes and Domantas Sabonis take a step backwards?
I mean, 81 shots taken as a team, and Domas took 4.
It's basically as if the Kings played 4-on-5 and the ghost of De'Aaron Fox wasn't able to put up any shots because this team basically was around 104 shots per per 48. And you take out those 23 shots and there it is. So you just basically played without him and didn't have anyone step up and replace his minutes at all. Pretty
Yeah.
wild.
No, pretty wild indeed. And again, I've always wanted him to be a little more selfish. I mean, he's got so much of an advantage down low. I mean, the 4 turnovers don't bother me so much, especially without Fox, but how are you not aggressive on the offensive end? How do you not look for yours? How do you not try to put that team on your back? Part of it too is I think there was a bit of a wilt factor in the sense that once this team, I mean, the ultimate kick to the crotch was seeing Fred Van Vliet knock the buzzer beater down going into halftime. You're down 23, and then you go down 40 at one point in that second half. I mean, there was a enormous let up. There was like a collective sigh of like, well, we're done. And I think that's the deflating of the spirit, as Mike Brown alluded to. So
I
that
think
should
that
never be
happened
the
before.
case.
I
Yeah,
understand what you're saying. I mean, it's almost like the Samaki Walker 3 from years ago where the Kings were up in the 2002 Western Conference Finals in a game, huge at the half, and Samaki Walker shoots a 3 after the buzzer, but they didn't review it, and they gave it to him, and then all of a sudden the Kings just laid an egg in the second half. But I would point to the fact that Malik Monk came in the game, who's usually your boost of energy, who usually
yeah.
changes the tempo, quickly picked up 3 fouls and looked like, nearly disengaged completely.
Played 15 minutes. That doesn't happen very often from him.
No, like, you brought up, Mike Brown turned to Colby Jones in the first quarter trying to get some sort of, like, energy, and the Rockets did what they should have done. They attacked him as a ball handler, and it was a mess, and so they pulled Colby Jones to the side because he's making mistakes, and they put in Jordan Ford. They're searching for energy. It wasn't
Right.
searching for a different player. It was searching for anyone who had some sort of juice. And like that's not a disrespect on Jordan Ford, like, but good for him. He came out. He did play hard. He got his first baskets in the second half. But like you shouldn't be searching and asking for your two-way players in a game, 6 games into a season to step up and be something to help you get over the hump.
Houston's a heck of a place to visit. So I don't know. He's spending too long in Houston. There could be some extracurriculars. I don't know. They look like a team that went through some extracurriculars. So
On a
um,
Sunday? Well, that's all right.
on a Monday, well, I mean, well, yeah, Sunday the night before. Sure, Houston's a a huge metropolitan metropolis. You don't have to. They're not shutting down on a Sunday.
That's wild. I just feel like we're watching a very, very different club right now.
Yeah.
I guess we're done like beating them up here. How do they get out of this, Sean?
Well,
Um,
you see, I don't think it's as simple as you put De'Aaron Fox back in the game. Fortunately, again, usually it takes one game, you have a clunker, and you respond the right way. If I'm the Trailblazers, I'm going, damn it, because now you've had two straight. The Kings are back on their home floor, and I think they're gonna really feed off that energy. I think they're gonna bring it. I think they'll respond the right way because that's the way good teams do. It's just I can't imagine seeing characteristics that we've seen over the past 3 games in terms of the pace, and in terms of just looking like a team that has had their spirit deflated. I think there's going to be a rally the troops moment, recalibrate as should have been done on Saturday and on Sunday, really, and they'll go out and play Kings basketball, but
hmm.
hopefully it's not more concern than that because again, 2-4 is where you were last year. You've lost to only two teams, the Warriors and the Rockets. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to start off 1-3 on their, or, well, no, 1-4 now on the road. They've been shown the penchant to be a good road team. So um, yeah,
Is it
let's see.
1-3? 1-3 on the road.
1-3, yeah, excuse
Two
me.
two home games.
Well, no, four because Utah, Golden State, two in Houston, one and
Oh,
four. Yeah,
no, no,
got to
no.
remember
But
that they
no,
played well and they.
they're one
Oh,
and
you're
three
right.
though.
1-3, one and
Yeah,
three.
1-3. That's 4 games.
New math.
What are you expecting from the Kings game against Portland on Wednesday night? I mean, for me, I'm hoping that they like get right and find their rhythm. But this is another team like Houston that they have talent. They're young. They make mistakes. They'll keep you in a ball game. But like this can't be who the Kings are like moving forward. At least like if it is, this season's gonna be a really, really ugly like spin out. And like we're gonna start like gauging how who's getting traded first and stuff like that. But like what you don't want to do here is lose to a Portland team that's not very good.
Right.
Because you got OKC followed by Cleveland, followed by a trip to LA, like right around the corner. And then that trip to LA starts a 6 game road trip.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Blazers, you're coming in here for a team that, isn't very good, and you're looking at a Kings team that isn't very good defensively, you are licking your chops in a way. Like Malcolm Brogdon's probably thinking he's gonna go out for 30 in that game. And he could very well do that. But no, I mean, you need to come in and you got to bury him. You can't take any opponent lightly in this league, and I think that's a lot of what was some of the success that the Kings had last year. But conversely, you can't come in here and think you have schedule wins that you're just like, well, we got this one, it's in the bag. And that's one of the things had pointed out. Like, you don't look at your opposition when you try to play the schedule that way and kind of mess with the game and say we as a team the Kings can afford to. Oh, you just sit Fox out. It's only the Trailblazers, you know what I mean, or it's only the Rockets. No, you don't. You get your guy right. And you don't want him out too long, and you don't have those schedule games. So, like I said, I expect the Kings to come out looking way different than what they've looked like over the past 2 games for sure. If you have an effort that's a little bit more like what happened in the Warriors game, maybe. But yeah, I got to see that ball zip. I got to see them run, bury a team. Like you have to do that. And I think my laundry's done. I don't know if you heard that,
I did.
but but yeah, I mean, you absolutely have to bury that team and at least look more like yourself. And I don't know that one night can do that, but Domantas Sabonis going up against DeAndre Ayton, I mean, that'll be interesting to see how Domas bounces back. See if any one of these guys who's been struggling to shoot, like Keegan Murray, needs a boost of confidence in the worst way. I think Kevin Herter, who's been kind of under the microscope quite a bit for his struggles, is kind of looking a little bit more like himself, but everyone around him just doesn't. So, seeing one of those guys see that shot fall a little bit would be great. And then if you can keep the fouls down, these reaching fouls are problematic for them. So,
Okay.
but if it can start, I mean, if it can start on the offensive end to kind of get back to that identity that they've They may not want to be known by it, but it's true. That's what they are. They are this fast paced team that's efficient. Um, that I think that'll go a long way to be. And another thing is that, yeah, if Fox plays or not, I don't care if Fox plays or not. Like they have to get back to Kings basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a big deal. All right, so we've crushed the Kings for the last, I don't know, 40 minutes or so.
Who didn't we hit? Should we hit somebody else?
We can hit me, Sean. How about that? Uh,
Okay.
because James has decided to, as part of this season's Kings Beat podcast, we're doing Prize Picks, right?
Yeah, we are.
And like, to be honest, I love Prize Picks. It's a lot of fun. It adds an element to watching a game that's just totally different. A couple of things I totally dig about Prize Picks. Number one, they you can choose different sports. So, like, if you're sitting there on a Sunday and there's a Kings game, but there's also 49ers game, and you're like, hey, I think Nick Bosa will have more than like 1.5 sacks. But I also think that Keegan Murray's going to hit more than 3 3-pointers. You can start looking at different types of projections, and I think it's cool. I am really bad at it, and it's something that I have to own, that I am a horrible, horrible, horrible Prize Pick player. But I think it is fun, and so jump on board with Prize Picks if you like this type of thing. There's a link down below in the description that is a specific link for us here at the King's Beat. Sean, I
Well, I hear you're doing people a service because really all they have to do, you share your picks, which I think is really brave. I don't think you should
it's
pick
embarrassing.
anything that involves the Sacramento Kings because maybe that's what you have to to switch things up a little bit. But I like that you share them because if I'm seeing that, I'm going, oh, would you look at that? Let me go in the opposite direction.
I am. I've become the poster child for what not to do.
Yeah.
So here's my selections for Saturday. I mean for
Oh,
Monday's game. I had Domantas Sabonis. I believed he was going to have more than point 0.5 block shots, and it's because Shingun is a ground based guy. They have a couple other ground based guys, and I thought Sabonis would at least get one block. I was wrong. 0.
eh.
Um, I also looked at Harrison Barnes and thought, okay, this is a game where he's going to step up. He averages like 4.2 3-point attempts per game, and the number of 3-point attempts on Price Picks was 4.5. I thought, okay, look, he's going to step up. He's going to take more than 4.5 attempts. Like, I'm not saying makes, I'm saying just attempts. What do you think happened, Sean?
Oh, I think he took that one. Think he went under.
Yeah, he didn't come close. He had less. I liked Keegan Murray to score to combine. This is points, rebounds, and assists was set at 23.5. He's been around 6 boards a game. He's picking up 2 assists per game. That means I need like 14, 15, 16 points. No big deal. Keegan Murray was ready for a get right game after a miserable game against Jabari Smith Jr. on Saturday. This is a third pick against a fourth pick. Um, Sean, that didn't happen.
Yeah, foolish boy you are.
Yeah. No, I think he finished, what did he finish with as far as, I have this pulled up, um, right here. Keegan Murray had 12 points. He had 5
5
rebounds. He
rebounds?
had 1 assist. So he finished with 18. So James takes the L. Um, Malik Monk, I had him at 4.5 assists. Malik Monk, with De'Aaron Fox out of action, has been spectacular with the assists. He finishes with 2. And then, just because every once in a while I need to go less because I like to go more, which our friend Brett Huff makes some fun of me all the time. I had Alperen Şengün doing less than, I think it's 32.5. Yeah, that didn't happen on points, rebounds, and assists. So he had a whopping 17 points, 12 rebounds. That's 29. No, 12 assists. That's 29. He finished with 37.
So
Um,
when picking your players, use James Ham as your North Star, and you might find some success.
0 for 5. 0 for 5, Sean.
That's impressive. Going 0 for anything is really tough to do.
It,
You know,
it's almost like I intentionally chose losing selections. Like
we
it's
used
almost like,
to we when I was in radio, we used to with Jim Kozumor, we used to do the perfect four. And if you would pick whatever winners, no, just straight winners, right?
yep.
And when you pick your winners, typically people 3-1, two and whatever, 2-2. When you backdoor 4, 0-4, like that was impressive. You should get a prize for that.
It's like when you go to bunco and you're the ultimate loser, there's always like a booby prize for the loser of losers.
That's
Um,
tough.
yeah, if you're the person who always comes in second to last place, you really are the loser of the night. Yeah. So,
Brutal.
yeah, it's tough. Yeah, even at on ESPN 1320, Kyle and I do Mad Props, which are of course Kyle Madsen. We play off of the last name, and he chooses two random things from the weekend, right? And we figure, like, I think this weekend, um, we had he does a really good job of this. So, Josh Jacobs rushing yards versus Kings first half point total on Saturday,
Okay.
right? So, or I think he had, because the Raiders were playing and the Niners were off. So we had like Max Crosby sacks versus Keegan Murray made 3 pointers. And we choose which one we think would win. And the first week I was a perfect 6-0. This last week, absolutely thumped. Just not good at all. I think the one I threw in was Aiden O'Connell turnovers versus Harrison Barnes 3-point makes. And I missed that one as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, you're doing the people a service. Just do what opposite James does, and you'll find some success.
It's opposite day. It's opposite day every time James makes selections. Um, Okay, Sean, what do you think? De'Aaron Fox back or no on Wednesday?
I'm gonna lean no. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I'm gonna lean no. And you know what? Part of it, and maybe this is reading too much into it. Part of it is because seeing the video of him kind of warm up a bit before last night's game on Monday in Houston. Not a lot of lift in the shot. Um, Obviously, he's just kind of horsing around, but it doesn't look like he's really going through it. It kind of looked a little bit just a gradual step better than what we saw last Thursday when he's just standing under the hoop, just elevating on his tippy toes to shoot from under the basket, and then shoot some free throws. So based off of that video, I saw that and was like, boy, I mean, barring some sort of contact today and see how it responds, then maybe. But yeah, hopefully I'm wrong, but I wouldn't bet on him being there on Wednesday.
on
He would not
Wednesday.
be in my picks. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? How long is it going to be till we see Trey Lyles?
Well, he's someone who hasn't totally been ruled out yet either. So he's someone that would obviously hope to go through practice. I don't know that he had any contact when he was in Houston. So,
He didn't go on the
um,
trip.
oh, that's right. Sorry,
No,
I
no, it's
forgot
okay.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe he was able to work out with the G League team in town. Who knows? I mean, they're going through their camp. They had their preseason game on Sunday, and then they tip off their season on the 10th. So 3 days from now, as we record this. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't probably bet on that either. I think it'd be nice to see both of them back, maybe for that Friday in-season tournament debut of Sacramento Kings. We'll see what
Mm,
that court looks like, huh? Was it going to look
mm.
better than the picture, or are you going to
I don't
probably
really
not, huh?
care. I don't really care about jerseys, and I don't really care about courts. That's something that other
Right.
people like are always concerned with, and it's just for me, it's not something I am concerned with. Like I'm okay with whatever when it comes to
I
that.
do like that it's 100%. I mean, I mean, my goodness, you look at it; it's so noticeable. Having something as to be able to distinguish when you're in the in-season tournament, because I think fans are going to need those little reminders, and having a court that'll certainly do the trick.
I do think it's interesting that the team has a home court, they have a city court, and they have a third court now, which is in-season tournament court, which there's only what, 4 in-season tournament games, 2 of which are at home and 2 that are on the road, right? In the preliminary rounds.
Yeah.
So that seems like a lot of expense for a court that you're changing for next season anyways, right?
Well,
Because it's
you're not flipping the bill, buddy. Like these are
no, I'm not.
there's
No,
a
that's
lot of
true.
money in this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is a lot. I guess that's the point. But I
James
also,
walks in and goes, "Isn't this expensive?"
yeah, I also like. I felt like that opening night. I don't know about you, but it really did feel like that. There, it was a little amped up. That there were a lot of teams. Like the games were closer. Like it was a good battle night. Like we had the Warriors with the absolutely bizarre ruling where Draymond
Oh,
Green fully touched the rim while the ball was above the rim, and they called it a not a goaltend, which I thought was totally bizarre. Like it doesn't matter if he touches balls. Like that's the rule that I've always like you're not allowed
yeah.
to touch the rim. And then someone else threw something in that maybe Josh Giddey had touched the net, but that's not what they called that night. They
No.
just said
And
that it didn't impact, and I'm like, okay, that's weird.
the last 2-minute report said the same thing.
It also didn't pick up that Draymond Green took like 42 steps against
He
the
got the happy
Kings.
feet.
He
It was
did
like this,
like he's out there like
tap
doing the
danced.
penguin walk the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not say that that was a travel in the 2-minute report? Did you just miss that? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on with the 2-minute report this year, but it doesn't seem to be very accurate. Y just saying.
Or
Um,
our understanding of the rules have has vastly disintegrated
it
over
has
the couple years.
it's very possible we just forgot about all the rules.
The game
That
has just moved to another level for us.
traveling is okay now. You are allowed to take 17 steps as long as it's done with the intention of winning a ball game, and beating the Sacramento Kings. So it's okay if you're just beating the Kings. It's okay. Um, and then like I was gonna say, like I kind of want them to do like World Series of Poker style. Like if you have the players, if the players aren't fully engaged, if the game isn't like I think I want to amp up the stakes, and I want them to pull out like $500,000 stacks of cash for each player and have a table sitting there with like
A
I don't
bunch
know
of
what it would be.
bracelet.
You like $7.5 million sitting there in stacks of cash. Like every game, you just bring a table and you set it out there. Like this is what you're playing for, boys. Let's go.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. Okay, Sean. Let's get to the business of basketball.
About time.
The business of basketball. I think it's a good idea, what you said in the beginning. Was this a therapy session or did we just like throw like gasoline on a fire?
Well, that's what I'm interested in finding out from the YouTube comments for sure, and see, we'll find out. I would guess that this was somewhat therapeutic in the sense that it's good to get things off your chest. And if any fans are out there watching a game and going, "How are you losing to the Houston Rockets? Twice in Houston, whatever, and you're looking like a totally different team." You know, I think one of the worst things to be told as a fan is that, "Oh, it's early." When you hear anybody come up with an excuse and always say, "Well, it's early, it's early." I've always tried to steer away from that, because just because it's early doesn't mean your ticket prices are cheaper. I mean, certainly ticket prices in the playoffs, depending on how you get them, can be a little bit more pricey. But
They're
you know,
outrageous right now for the regular season, man. I know my
yeah,
son got some lower bowl tickets the other day and for the OKC game coming up, and it was I think $108 a piece, and that
because he
was
had to be there for the in-season tournament debut. Is that why?
no, because one of his
No.
buddies that lives out here and stays with us sometimes is from he's from Texas, but he chose the Thunder as his team at some point. So he's a big Thunder fan, so they're going to watch. Maybe they'll
Thunder
get in a
buddies.
fight like in the middle of the game because my son is not a Thunder fan. That'd be fun. He's a little guy.
Uh, they will not be Thunder Buddies for life. That's okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this has been therapeutic, and I think some people need harsh truth to look in the mirror and go, they got to be better. And every one of those Kings players, coaches, staff, everybody. By the way, if you follow Vivek Ranadive on Instagram, he's leaving some interesting videos every single day. I think he has the right mindset for his today was pretty good. He was clashing. He was wearing Puma and Nike, I noticed, but he, but yes, he says, we're a little bit of a tough spell, and he kind of had a little story that made him feel better. I don't know if it'll make anyone else feel better, but yeah, hopefully things like this are therapeutic. Back on your home floor, got to protect home floor, and yeah, should
Did
be
he
fun.
did he tell a story about how one time he coached his daughter's basketball team?
No,
No,
no, he
that's not
didn't
what he
use
said?
that one. I'm sure you
Okay.
can find that one though. It's probably
It's hidden there in his
in the timeline.
alright. No, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, so as far as what I think, like, I don't know if we were therapeutic. I think
You
that
don't feel
at
better?
the end of this, I feel like I was more negative than you were.
See, and that was my point. I always feel like, and look, you coming at me had no bearing on how I was going to.
I hurt
This guy
Sean's
says I'm a
feelings.
glass half empty. I better show him. Take that, James. Shake my fist at you. No, I feel that I think we're both realists. I do feel um, that Kings fans can handle the truth. I mean, they're not used to success, so of course they can handle the truth.
No,
Um,
I think the expectations though,
oh yes,
expectations are fighting. That's expectations are hurting everyone right now. Like this team should be better than they are. There's no question. I mean, I like honestly, if you would have told me that they would start the season 2-4, um, like I would have thought, oh man, like really, you lost to Utah on opening night and then you split with the Rockets.
yeah. I mean,
Or I would have thought you lost to Utah, you lost to the Warriors. I would have thought you started 0-4 and then picked up 2 wins in Houston. That's what I would have thought. Like,
much like
so
last year. And
yeah.
that's the interesting part. Like I want people to ask themselves, and I think I know the answer. Which feels worse, the start to last year or this year? Like, I get it. This year is going to be the one that stings the most because you have De'Aaron Fox that's hurt, Trey Lyles is hurt, and you're coming off a season of success. But and you're not looking like the team that you were last year. It's that out of character. So I get it. Most people are going to say that, but at the end of the day, you're still 2-4. Um, it's not the end of the world.
All right.
And to look at it, I know it's no one should look at the standings before January, but if you happen to gaze at the standings and see how things are kind of shaken out already, I think one of the concerning things, aside from really Memphis, is you don't really see a lot of last year's good teams below the play-in tournament. So just
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
worth noting.
Phoenix is struggling a bit. The Lakers are struggling a bit. Like there are some teams that are down there, but Dallas is playing much better than expected.
Didn't see
Uh,
that
M-
coming.
Minnesota's turning it on. Yeah, there's plenty of things that are positive that are happening for some of the other teams.
Outside the play-in tournament, Spurs, Blazers, Kings, Jazz, Grizzlies. Grizzlies at
Hmm.
1-6.
Oh, the Grizzlies are abysmal.
But your separation in games, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
not that far.
Well, yeah, the Kings are one win away from being the 9 seed, so it's not that bad. And
Here we are
like
trying to
that's
make people pick their spirits up.
yeah.
We're doing what the Kings didn't do. We see deflated spirits and we're trying to inflate them again.
There we are.
Kings
Everything
didn't
is
have that guy.
awesome.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
feel
Sean.
better, James.
Sean, do you have any final thoughts to this here podcast?
Yeah, don't drive off a cliff. You know,
Tunes
I
is a
think
driving
that
cat.
I think it's yeah, I think it's still I think there's still a lot of reasons to be optimistic for sure for the season. Again, I also think, I mean, what did we say at the beginning of the season? Like, you can have less wins and fall down the playoff standings a bit and still be able to sustain some playoff success. Certainly not the way that they're playing. So I don't think they can do much worse there. So there's optimism in my mind. But outside of basketball, well, not really. I think it's cool that I saw that San Francisco got the All-Star game. I know it's not San Francisco or Sacramento who's going to get it, as they probably should. And I know it always has to do with the lack of 4 and 5-star hotels in this region. But it is nice to see that it's going to be in San Francisco and not some place like Utah or Indiana. Be nice to see how the Bay Area collectively comes out for that and see. Bay Area's going to have a lot. They got the Super Bowl coming up. They're going to have a World Cup game. I mean, that's big for them. So seeing this in 2025, the NBA All-Star game in San Francisco, and then shout out to the Republic, man. Like that was brutal.
Horrible.
If for anyone who is, I'm not a soccer fan, but this is my kind of soccer. A game that can't end in a tie. And that's when you get my attention. And they were in the Western Conference Finals, scored the early goal, and then they give up the last two, the equalizer and then the deciding goal, all in about 11 minutes, and one coming in extra time. That's a tough one, man. That is really tough.
It was horrible to watch. I feel like I may have jinxed them. I did reach out to Scott Moak and say, hey, can we get you on the show if they win? And he's like, oh, I'm not even answering that question. And I'm like, oh, yeah, my bad. Like, we want you to talk soccer, and we're trying to get you on the show. We're trying to get your team some pub, because they did have everything lined up.
You should have done it anyway.
Had
Win
him
or
on
lose.
anyways.
Yeah,
maybe I will. Maybe I will have him on this week. I'll reach out again.
You should talk to Mark Briggs. That dude is a ton of fun to talk to. First of all, if you don't just listening to that, I could listen to him read the yellow pages and be entertained. He's got a great voice. He needs to like do audiobooks, because that guy is really fun to listen to. But what a guy to talk to. I think he breaks down the game in a great way, especially for someone like me who's not a soccer fan. I could talk to him all day. I think you should talk to him. He's great.
I was on. It was me and D'Lo and Sarah Hodges. We had him on the show the day that they signed the 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Davion. I can't remember his last name.
I forget his last name.
Oh,
yeah.
Kimbrough, I believe. Yeah. So we had him on that day, and that was really entertaining. And it was really, really intriguing, because I asked him, like, what style of player is he? Like, for people who watch like high-end soccer, is he, we know he's a striker, but is he a Ronaldo type striker? Is he a Messi type striker? And like, it was an entertaining conversation. Like
13 years old.
And then I looked, because I was looking up their roster. They have a couple of 16-year-olds. Like, you look at their roster and you're like, huh, that kid looks like he's got like acne still. Like, he can't be that old. And then you click, you're like, yeah, he's 16 years old. What is he doing on the pro team? Like, good for you. Yeah, it's funny. They've got some young kids on there. Yeah, they like, the future's bright for Sac Republic. I'm bummed, because they would have had hosted the championship this weekend on Sunday. So that would have been fun. Okay, final thoughts from me. Number one, we're missing our dude Brendan. He'll be back. We'll probably have a pod on Thursday. We're back to 2 pods a week. That's the way it goes. Number two, go to the link and get yourself hooked up with Prize Picks. Super fun. We're having a great time doing it. I keep losing, but it is what it is. Such is life. I keep losing
You have
my
fun,
Prize
though.
Picks. I do have fun, and it makes me like throw things at the TV on occasion, but or at the game, like
At the arena. Gotta have it. Hitting the table.
Gotta have it. No, that's never about Prize Picks. The gotta have it is never about Prize Picks. That's always like, oh, gotta have it. Like, oh, that's a big shot right there. Nope. And it's funny, I can, like, you've sat with me long enough. I can tell you whether a shot's going in or not, like, almost like every single time. Like, from the start of the game till the end. I'm like, nope. Yep. Ooh, that's going in. Nope. It's just
Fortunately,
like
you don't though, because that would be fucking annoying.
I
That would
do
be
it the whole
terrible.
game. You
I
you
don't hear
don't
that
hear
part.
me.
I
You
just
don't
hear the
hear me.
gotta have it. If I hear you just go, nope, yep,
Nope.
stop that. Fortunately, I don't hear
Now
that.
he's gonna hear me, and he's gonna
I
be like,
know.
"Son of you do it all." I do it all game long. I do it all game long. Awesome. Outside of that, let me see. Make sure to follow all of Sean's work. Uh,
Thanks.
go. What is Sean? Is it? Oh, it's
What
right
is it?
there at Sean Cunningham on the X or on Twitter. The artist formerly known as Twitter. Make
Sean
sure
dot
to
Cunningham. Sean dot Cunningham on the Insta or Threads.
on the Insta or Threads. You have yeah. I can't get back into Threads. I'll try to do Threads again, but I don't know.
It feels like you're just. It feels like no one's there at times,
Feels like
but
a really poor like Twitter on in like 2009. That's what it feels like.
well,
Like
so
there's
it's ready
not
to
that
take
many people
off.
there, but there's also like it's not built out right yet. So like there's some clunkiness to it and it's like a bad it's like if you play like a really good video game and then someone's, "Hey, let's play the old Atari games." You're like, "Oh, I forgot how bad these games were." That's what it feels like. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's see, drop by and see me and Kyle on the Insiders,
Where are you
Monday
gonna
through
be?
Friday from 10 to noon. Just no, like on the live stream
Oh, okay.
or drop by and see us, like flip over to 1320, uh, ESPN 1320 and give us a listen. We're having a good time. We're building chemistry. Everything's going really well. We're having a spectacular time there. And our friends over at Jiffy Lube, every Kings game, we give away $100 gift certificate. And so that's pretty amazing. And we got some crazy things going on next month as well in the month of December for the Christmas holiday. So jump on board with us over at ESPN 1320 The Insiders. Cool. Sean, we done?
I think we're done. I think we ran it into the ground.
I think we did. All right. Well, that's going
See
to do it.
Draymond Green get kicked in the nuts. That was kind of entertaining.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. That was
I
fun.
love that. I love that people make a collage of all his like moments and then go, "Oh, isn't it ironic he finally got hit?" And, it's. I don't root for that for anybody, but that looked like it hurt.
Yeah, that was
You
good
remember
stuff.
what you remember in Kingpin where he's like, "You must have a really wide foot because you got both of them." It's a good
uh,
line.
that
Or
is a good
last
line.
year, was it last year when Steven Adams, after he got hit and he's walking off the floor, but before he did, he counted to 4 to
Yes.
take
Was
inventory?
that was against the Kings?
Yeah,
It was.
that's great.
I think it was. I think Fox got him. I can't remember who it was again. It was or it was Monk.
He
It
took
was
a
like
knee,
it
yeah.
was a small guy going in for a layup. Oh no no, I think it was Keegan.
Might
That's
have
who it
been, yeah.
was. Yeah yeah yeah.
I
That's
just
good
remember him
stuff.
counting to 4 and John Morant losing his, he started laughing about it.
We had this moment on the Insiders where I literally gave a speech about how we don't touch other people's privates after Dylan Brooks got hit with like the $50,000 fine. And now Kyle has clipped it, and every time I say something ridiculous, he plays it.
Yeah, that's a good radio bit, always. Anything taken out of context, just play that randomly.
Yes, we do
It's a fun
not
game.
touch other people's privates. There it is.
It's good
All
advice.
right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast brought to you by Prize Picks. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Give us a thumbs up, give us a rating and review, jump on board with the Kings Beat, go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber. So for Fox 40, Sean Cunningham, I am James Ham, Kings Inside for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We'll see you later in the week.